Street Fighter X Tekken. I'm gonna interview. I've got an interview next week for Capcom to see if I could be the announcer for the Street Fighter series. What do you think? That's what I got so far.
All right, let me try it. Street Fighter X Tekken, Tekken.
This is a man who brings his own special effects to the table. I hear they like that in the industry.
Yeah, well, you got it. All right, I'm done. Yeah.
All right, Jason, let's talk about Street Fighter X Tekken.
Okay, yeah,
So-
well, you're going to be doing most of the talking because I only played it in that one little playthrough thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you got a little taste of it. So, but for anybody that hasn't seen our playthrough, happy hour feature for this, Street Fighter X Tekken is the first in a pair of games that a couple years ago that were announced, where basically Capcom and Namco were trading, or they were each...
Capcom and Namco got together and put all their dudes in a box and shook it up, and they all fought. And it was a game, and they were going to make two of them.
Yeah, as I understand it, people can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but as I understand it, there was one meeting between the two companies where they basically said, like, they worked out all the legal kinks and, like, if any characters can be used, if they can't be used or whatever, and then they split, and, like, Namco isn't looking at this game at all, and Capcom didn't have any insight into Namco's development process. Basically, this is Capcom's version of Street Fighter versus Tekken, and then Namco is making the Tekken version. So this one plays a little bit more like Street Fighter, that one's going to play a little bit more like Tekken, but that neither company has any oversight into the crazy shit that the other one is doing, which I find to be just insane. Like, very interesting.
Wait, you're not working on that? We thought you guys were working on that. We're not working on it. Who made this game?
We outsourced it to Konami. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, it's an extremely interesting game, this Street Fighter X Tekken, and
That's extremely okay.
Yeah, I
you can't see me right now, but I'm leaning back and crossing my arms skeptically.
Okay, well, I'm gonna lay it down here at the very beginning. That the last few, the place that we have come to in fighting games is not very friendly for a beginner. You know, the Street Fighter 4 and all the different versions that have come out rely a lot on kind of this like you played Street Fighter 2 and you played through all the versions of them, and you got really good with them, and then you went on to Street Fighter 3 and you learned that, and now you play Street Fighter 4, and to me it seems like the whole fighting community is segregated into, like, people who know how to do a 15-hit ultra combo, and then those of us that are just like, hey, dude, you want to come play some Street Fighter? I'll show you how to do a fireball. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also those of us who may or may not be having a seizure in the general area of the controller and hoping things work out for the best.
It's a very zen fighting style. You just hit all the buttons and you hope that, the universe helps you to throw a fireball.
Yes, exactly. I'm hoping that there is some sort of video game deity that has pity on me and allows me to Shoryuken.
I just see you before you start playing around. You're like, oh, Capcom lords, bless me with thine combos, and see fit to give me the ultras that I will need to win this round.
I offer unto you the blood of Nick Hodges.
But this is an interesting game because there's we saw a little bit in the video that we did where there's like 18 tutorials for this game, and we didn't do any of them when we recorded, but later on I went through them, and they lay out this really, it's probably one of the best fighting game tutorials that I've ever seen. It lays out these very simple things about, okay, jumping, blocking certain things, and then it kind of builds from there. This game has more like doing a fireball and pressing weird buttons on the controller, like pressing 3 buttons at one time, than I've seen in any other game. There's two keys you can press, 2 buttons you can press at the same time that basically lets you just spend a portion of your special gauge and do a combo on a dude. Like, you don't even have to know how to do a combo. The game will totally do it for you. So when I went into this game and started playing it, after I went through all these menus and tutorials and things, it was fun. I mean, you pick 2 guys and you kind of learn 2 of their special moves, and it reminded me of when I first started playing these games where, you can play the computer on medium and it's not too crushingly difficult. You don't, the last boss isn't hitting you over the head with his dick like Seth did in Street Fighter 4.
Whoa. Glad I skipped Street Fighter 4.
And it doesn't move as fast as Marvel vs. Capcom. So it's not that super fast, super frenetic stuff blowing up all over the screen style, which, I understand that people who've been playing those games they can look at that and see what's actually happening. I can't. I just see colors and lights, and then I wake up with my wallet in my mouth to keep me from swallowing my tongue. So it's slow enough that you can kind of learn how to deal with it, but it still has enough special things that you can pull off relatively easily that you feel like you're getting something done. So you're not just, low kicking a guy over and over and over again until he goes down. I did do that a few times. Felt like I was playing Mortal Kombat, but there's enough of a structure to the game that you can get in there and you can pick a couple of characters and you can really get stuff done. Of course, then I went online, and it turns out that the major difference between this game and Street Fighter is that they've really focused a lot more on putting in kind of Tekken-style juggle maneuvers. Because I went online and I was like, yeah, I know my 3-hit combo, like bam, bam, bam. Suddenly some dude's got me like up in the air for like a minute, and like the other character jumps in and gives me a swirly, and then the other guy comes in and gives me an Indian burn, and then he throws me up in the air and fire fills the screen.
They're
and
really not getting very creative with the moves. Remember Shoryuken and Fire Blast, and when Blanca would shock you with laser or electricity and everything?
Yep.
Not anymore. According to Professor Jeff, they give you a wedgie.
I mean, just as a straight up kind of like two people playing fighting game, I think it's great. I think it's fine. I'm going to be curious really to know how this game develops as far as like the tournament scene goes, because while what I've just talked about, the core gameplay is fine, there are some other things in this game that are really, really strange. And the first of those things are the gems. So each character in the game has like these 3 slots that you can put these enhancement gems into, and there are things like once you've connected with 5 normal moves, you get a 10% damage bonus. So, and some of them have like a higher effect. There'll be one that says you get like a 20% damage bonus, but you also get a 10% speed decrease. And you can put any 3 of these gems into these slots, and it makes the game interesting because you can say, my version of Ken is maybe not the same as your version of Ken. Like if you like to play defense, you might equip higher defense gems, and if I like to attack, I might higher attack gems. So you can really customize a character in a really granular way to how you want to play the game. Unfortunately, Capcom really dicked up the interface for this, because every character in the game has like an A and B slot that you can equip 3 gems into, and you have to do this all from a separate menu. So you can't do it when you're picking your characters. You could choose between A or B, but there's like a whole other menu you have to load into, and then there's these really long menus full of gems, and you got to look at each one of them and tell what the bonuses are and decide which ones you want, and you have to do that for every specific character. So
how do you get these gems again?
They just come with the game.
Okay, so you don't like collect them or something like that?
No, there's plans. They've already announced that they're going to have some available to purchase as DLC. The game comes with like a good like 50 or 60 of them by default, but they're probably going to sell some as DLC. I also understand, I've heard from a couple other places that if you bought the collector's edition of the game, you got, this is kind of shady, you actually got gems that are better than what's in there right now.
Great.
So you get like add 20% damage with no negative side effect, even though they had specifically said that wasn't going to be the case.
Who published this?
Capcom. It's all Capcom.
Capcom was the publisher. Okay, okay. They were developer and publisher. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Which also, there's a lot of really weird stuff going on with this, because the PlayStation version of this game has 5 additional fighters in it. It's got weird like frumpy beer belly box art Mega Man and Pac-Man driving this giant wooden robot.
And yet the Xbox version doesn't have any.
As I only got it for the PS3, but according to the Wikipedia page, which, as we all know,
that's gospel.
Yeah, none of those characters are there. I do know that on the PS3 they also have. If you watch our video, you saw the little cats Toro and Kuro or whatever their name are. Those are
don't remind me.
Those are like PlayStation mascots in Japan, so I'm pretty sure there's no way they'd be on the Xbox. And then also they've got Cole from Infamous 2 is in there, and there's no way that he would be on the Xbox since it's a PS3 exclusive. So it's kind of strange to have these two different versions of the game. And the PS3 version has all these other characters that are free at launch. The Xbox version does not. Which is a little strange. But then what's also strange, another thing that people have been kind of up in arms about, is there's also 12 additional characters on the CD that are locked. And they will not be unlocked until the PlayStation Vita version comes out, which is apparently a little ways down the line. And they're going to be paid DLC. In fact, I think I saw a news story that said that it's going to be like $20 for all those characters. I could be wrong about that. It could be 10, but no matter what it is, it brings up a kind of an interesting question about on-disc DLC. People had a lot of problems in Mass Effect with the DLC character being on the disc. For this, I'm not. I think I can probably say, I don't know. Jason, what do you think? Tell me what you think about this.
Whores. Blood-sucking assholes. Wait, what are we talking about?
Fighting games, unlockable characters. Well, here I tell you what.
No, unlockable characters is great, and I think, and I'm fine with them putting unlockable characters as DLC, and I mean that's I think that's really neat. But it's one of those things to where do you monitor them to say, hey, you were working on this before launch? Because it's like, I feel cheated if they were working on it before launch. They started working on it after launch, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. This is actually something extra. But if you're like castrating the game before you give it to me so you can charge me more later, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that sentiment, except for the fact that there are a lot of characters in this game. Like, it wasn't like they only gave you 8 characters and they're going to release another 12 when this DLC comes out. I mean, there is a good amount of characters in here already for people to play. And the other thing I was kind of thinking about was, from a perspective of online matchmaking, it's nice to know that the code for those characters is all on this one disc, and so that everybody has it. So if you haven't, if you've purchased them, they're already there. You don't have to download them. I can imagine that sort of thing could be a bit of a pain in the ass. I don't know. I mean, personally, I feel like if you have a problem with this as DLC, you kind of got a problem with DLC. Because would it really have been that much different if it had been 12 characters and you had to download them all? Like, what is the honest difference there? The fact that they were done before launch and they were put on the disc? Like, if they'd taken them off the disc and then make you download 2 gigs worth of DLC, would that have been better?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a tough question, but it really is almost a semantics type thing. We're splitting hairs, but I feel better about it if I know that it's not already there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, what if you buy a car and it's got a radio in there, but you can't turn it on unless you pay an extra $200.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I can kind of see both sides of this, but I don't. I guess there are people who have stated this as like the reason they're not going to play this game. Like, no, fuck this game. I'm not going to play it because you guys put all this shit on the disc. You're just nickel and diming us for other characters. And
that's extreme.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that might be a little bit of an overreaction. Like, I feel that it's the sort of thing that, if you keep an eye on it, if it gets out of hand, then there's a day where you say, okay, no more. I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. But as it is right now, the game has a lot of content by default, and so I don't know. I guess that one's kind of a wait and see.
Well, what are your problems with the game aside from this DLC conundrum? I mean, what do you have any like big like actual gameplay issues? I mean, aside from the gems, do you have anything like the controls or the story or lack of such, that kind of thing?
The story is a little weird. I think that this is really nitpicky, but when we were playing the game, like, you will run into static groups of characters. So, like, whenever you face Guile, he's always got Abel from Street Fighter 4 with him. And the game has these characters hooked up into basically teams, and you can see on the select screen they're right next to each other. And if you want to see they've got these little cutscenes and these storylines, you have to choose two specific characters that are right next to each other. So you have to pick Ken and Ryu in order to see like a cutscene story. And when you fight Ken or Ryu in the game, you'll have both of them come out at the same time, always.
The news of Pandora has reached Ryu thanks to Chun-Li as she tracks Shadowloo's movements. The reports of ordinary people displaying unimaginable power due to the influence of the box has Ryu worried.
The box seems to have a power over people. It creeps in and makes them lose all sense of self. Is it possible that Pandora's box is connected to the Satsui no Hado?
Ryu sets his sights on the Antarctic to discover the true nature of the box. Ken, worried about his friend, decides to accompany him.
Guess there's no reasoning with you on this one, huh? Okay. I suppose I might as well tag along for the ride.
Thanks, Ken. I have a feeling I'm going to need your help.
So you don't ever get like a random, like you'll never see like Ken and Kyuza or Chun-Li and Nina will never show up together. So it's always these static groups, and so in some cases it makes it a little bit easier to develop strategies against them. But on the other hand, I felt that there maybe was a little bit too much. Like I feel like they should have mixed that up a little bit more. That should have been a little bit different. The stories were silly and appropriately so to the franchise. The one really strange thing about it is they start this game and basically Street Fighter and Tekken have apparently, because they never give you an explanation, have apparently just always existed in the same world as far as the series is concerned. So Shadaloo and the Mishima Zaibatsu have always been just in the same world. Ken's walking up the other side of the volcano while Kyuza's getting, or Heihachi's getting thrown in or whatever.
Hey, look at those guys. Yeah. Did you see those guys? They have crazy hair too. And some of them are monsters. I think they like to fight. We should go fuck some shit up.
It makes you wonder, like, if you ever see like cutscenes of Ken at home, like with his head down and a bottle beside him with the rejection letter that says, Mr. Masters, your application to the King of Iron Fist tournament has been rejected. We will inform you if there are any dropouts. Like, how is it that these two universes never cross paths? And it seemed like the sort of thing which, considering that both, let's just talking about batshit crazy fighting game stories, and considering that Street Fighter and Tekken both have just incredibly weird and convoluted stories, that they didn't pull like a DC versus Mortal Kombat thing and make up some equally crazy, Mishima Zaibatsu opens up a dimensional rift and then Heihachi comes through and, he's talking with M. Bison about what this world is, just some kind of nutso crap that could have explained this a little bit. But, I don't know. That's kind of a nitpick. I think that the 360 apparently has some serious problems with online play. People have said that the PlayStation 3 version also has some issues with online play. I played it a little bit. I didn't get to play it very much, but I played it online a little bit, and it did seem like it was more laggy than I would have cared for it, which is a strange thing to me considering we've been making fighting games for how long?
Yeah. You cannot have any lag in a fighting game, period. None. You can't do it in an online one. That ruins everything. I mean, I know lag ruins a lot of games, but particularly in fighting games. I mean, that's make or break.
Yeah. Plus, I don't. Jason, I don't know how many fighting games you may have played online, but apparently when people play fighting games online, they've got their Bluetooth headsets hooked up so that they could totally talk to you about how you should have done that combo last time, bro. Like, I was spectating matches, and there were just this total... like we talked on one of the podcasts before about that horrible stuff with the Street Fighter Cross Tekken, that guy making all this terrible, saying all that horrible crap to that woman. It's kind of like that. Like,
great.
And it's just like this horrible shit talking over voice comms, which are, barely tolerable in the best of situations.
Are they going to objectify me and make me feel like a piece of meat and talk about my boobs?
I think so. I think so.
See, I was really against it until you started putting it that way. Oh, wait, they're a bunch of, like, troglodyte, knuckle-dragging guys, right?
Yeah.
Never mind.
I will say that unlike Marvel vs. Capcom, out of the gate, this one has like a good matching system of like you go into a lobby with like 8 other people and you spectate while the 2 people are fighting, and then whoever loses goes down to the bottom of the list. Next person comes up. That was cool. So, you know, when I wasn't playing, I could watch people play. It wasn't just like sitting in a menu screen watching 2 little Capcom logos bust into each other. They had a really, really crazy online mode called Scramble that I couldn't get into, but I watched a few matches for, where basically 4 people, like each two teams of 2, like pick their characters, but all 4 of them fight at the same time.
That's
so it's like
nuts.
2 on 2. Yeah,
is it just total chaos?
Oh, it is just considering the amount of like special moves and ultra combos and super art moves that you can do in this game. Yeah, it was nuts, because anytime that one of those guys pull that thing off, the whole game stops and it goes into that weird little cutscene of watching, you know, a bear fart in your face, and like it just seemed to be complete and total chaos.
I had blocked out the bear farts. I'm glad I didn't play this game. I would just have to be like, oh, bear farts? Okay, we're going to knock this down from rental to bargain bin. I'm sorry. I don't dig on bear farts or the tap dancing that said bear might do after it breaks wind in my face. I'm not into that.
Having gone through the game and done almost all of those kind of like those team-up special moves, I think that's probably the craziest one in the entire game. I don't think there's anything that even remotely comes close to that.
Well, you know, if you're going to put that in there, you might as well just go all out. Just have everyone have a farting move.
Fatality.
No. See, now that you put that out there into the Matrix, it's going to happen.
Well,
Way to go.
That's what I'm here for. So, yeah, I would say that if your primary focus for these games is playing them online, you may want to wait and see if the netcode gets ironed out a little bit better. I know that they're working on it. The other thing is, I heard that on the 360, there is a problem, and I don't know, as of the date that this goes up, I can't be sure whether or not a patch has already come out to address it, but specifically on the 360, you can't play 2 people in the same room, like on one squad online. For some reason, you can on the PlayStation 3, but like just like Mortal Kombat last year or some of these other games, you can put 2 people on the same team and then tag out your partner, and you can play. You know, you can play 2 people against the computer, but you can also make a team and then take that team online. And the Xbox version, you can't do that with your local partner, so you can't have a person sitting next to you online. A little weird. Outside of that, I don't really know how much else I have to say. It's kind of strange how this game, unlike Marvel vs. Capcom, I never played Tekken Tag, but as I understand, this is Tekken Tag rules where you have 2 characters, but if either one of them gets knocked out, it's game over, so it doesn't just pull in the other character and let their health go down. A little strange, takes a little getting used to, but nothing that's too out of whack. It actually adds a little bit of interesting kind of tactical consideration to the game, but other than that,
so how does it hold up? I mean, is it a good evolution? I mean, let me ask you this: now that this game is out there, is it kind of robbing any future Street Fighter games or Tekken games of anything? Now will everything just be kind of pale because if it's just a Street Fighter game, it's not going to be as good?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that it retains a lot of that Street Fighter. A lot of the Street Fighter feel to it, but it's kind of a weird offshoot. Like, it seems to be kind of like the maybe like the Alpha series would be a good comparison, where you have like this. Depending on how it sells, I mean, I can totally see a Street Fighter cross Tekken 2 that just where they take this style of gameplay and continue to develop it on its own. But I don't think it's going to influence the main Street Fighter or Tekken development cycles.
Okay.
Because those are so locked up in that kind of like tournament atmosphere that they can't make really radical changes. Whereas here, the changes they've made aren't exactly, you know, groundbreakingly radical, but there's more of an emphasis here on combos than there is on projectiles. So like a lot of the Tekken characters don't have a fireball, but they have ways to get around the Street Fighter characters' fireballs. So it ends up being kind of really its own beast. It kind of stands on its own 2 feet. And for that, I think that if you're a person who's interested in playing a fighting game, this is a very well-made fighting game. And I think that it'll definitely, like, I can see myself getting drunk with a bunch of people and playing this for like 6 hours.
Really?
Fun.
That's quite a bit of a commitment there, because we played it for maybe an hour during the playthrough. Yeah, I was done after about 15 minutes. Not because it was a bad game, but just because it hated me, and it allowed its hatred to be. It used you as the avatar for its hatred to punish me.
I was possessed by the spirits of Devil Jin and Evil Ryu to punish you.
Or your button mashing was superior to my button mashing.
Well, I tell you what, this is a really interesting thing that you can actually do. In the previous Street Fighter, I think it was in Street Fighter 4, there was like a very easy mode that you could turn on where all of the special moves were basically mapped to just push a direction and an attack button. So you could just press forward on the controller and hit like punch, and Ken or Ryu will throw their fireball, and you just hit back and they do the hurricane kick, you hit down forward and they do a shoryuken. Well, that mechanic has actually been mapped onto a gem in this game. So you can equip this gem and it reduces your damage by 10%, but you can just whip out these special moves like there's nobody's business. So I think it actually gives players who are maybe not so familiar with this game like a good starting point. You say, okay, you know what? Jason, come here. You put the easy gems on, and we'll fight. Now I'll do the manual button inputs, and you could spam fireballs at me and get a feel for these different characters. The only thing is that I cannot stress enough how much I wish that there was a way to just say, I want to use these gems for everybody that I play. Like, just put these gems on whoever I pick on the character select screen. But I mean, other than that, I could definitely see a progression of going from using these things and then using them less and less as time goes on, and learning how to play the game. So
okay, so what could they have done to really make it better, like to really kick it up to the next level? So I was kind of excited about it, but then it just didn't end up doing it, and I think a lot of that is because I was not good at it at all. But if we're going at it from a design perspective, I mean, what is the biggest thing that they could have done to improve it?
I think just streamlining the menus and the selection and things like that, just that gem mechanic, and maybe, like I said before, randomizing some of the fights that you encounter in the single-player game, iron out the netcode, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the foundation of this game is rock solid. You've got a company that's been making fighting games forever that has applied some interesting ideas to the backbone of an already strong franchise. So it's going to be more of a... It's more of a Street Fighter type game. So if you're not real super into Street Fighter, I could say you maybe want to give this one a pass. But I mean, if you're just looking for a solid fighting game, this will work. This will do it.
What do you give it?
I think it's a very solid full price. I feel that if you're interested in this sort of game, in any way, shape, or form, $60. I mean, the only thing is if your focus is the net code, you may want to wait a little bit and see if that gets ironed out first. But yeah, there's enough here to keep. Oh, I'm going to be playing this game for a while longer. Just off time, I'd love to load it back up and get into a few more of the characters, especially after the ass kicking that I took online. Jesus, that was just pathetic. I was to punch my TV in the face. I was so mad.
It really sounds like that the online is no place for me, like by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be like the old guy showing up to the fucking thrash metal concert with his cardigan on.